Okay, we will call the meeting to order. Take notice, this public meeting of the Sayreville Board of Ed was emailed to the Home News Tribune and the Star Ledger in accordance with Chapter 231, Public Law 1975, further in accordance with NJSA 10:4-6-21. A copy was posted outside the Secretary's office and also filed with the Clerk of the Borough of Sayreville. Please rise for the pledge to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I apologize for the delay. The good news is this should be a quick meeting. Ms. Hill, roll call, please.
Mr. Balco?
Here.
Mrs. Bacco?
Here.
Mr. Bashada?
Here.
Mrs. Bloom?
Here.
Mrs. DePinto?
Here.
Mr. Esposito?
Here.
Mr. McAgnone?
I am present.
Mr. Walsh?
Here.
Mr. Syak?
Here. Could you summarize for us what we discussed in executive?
Student matter, personnel including but not limited to agenda items, negotiations for Teamsters and supervisors, and the superintendent's evaluation.
Thank you very much. And we have the correspondence that's noted on the agenda. And then we have the approval of minutes. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes of the June 13th meeting?
So moved.
By Mrs. DePinto. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a question
By Mr. Walsh. And you have a question on the
on
minutes?
the minutes. Was the last meeting when we had the HIB hearing?
I'm sorry?
Did we have that HIB appeal at the last meeting? This June 13th?
Yes, we did.
Okay. There was no reference as to the people who were present. Should we have those in the minutes? I think we
It's
used to have them.
confidential, so I haven't put
No,
anything like that on there.
Not the parents or the students, but the employees.
Oh, the employees who were present? I didn't note that. I can note
I
that.
mean, we've done it in the past, I just don't.
Yeah, I can make that notation. Do you want me to make it now, or do you want to pull it for next meeting?
You could just make the notation.
Okay, I'll make that notation.
So we have a motion and a second. If the motioner and seconder agree, we will have the minutes amended as per the recommendation of Mrs. Bacco. Is there any opposition to that? Any other comments on the minutes? Hearing none, roll call on the minutes as amended.
Mr. Balco?
Yes.
Mrs. Bacco?
Yes.
Mr. Bashada?
Yes.
Mrs. Bloom?
I will abstain since I was not present at the meeting.
Mrs. DePinto?
Yes.
Mr. Esposito?
Yes.
Mr. McAgnone?
Yes.
Mr. Walsh?
Yes.
Mr. Syak?
Yes. Okay, in the same fashion as we did last month, we're going to use our new process with the superintendent's report, and Dr. Labby's only going to highlight any major items in each section, and if there are none, we'll have more discussion. So, finance?
Okay, well, I do have some major items in finance. I'll go through them as fast as I can. 17, I did want to note, because I think it's wonderful that the Wilson School PTO would donate a smartboard for us. So I wanted to put a big shout out to the Wilson School PTO for that. I thought that was wonderful. We do have our district program tuition rates that I wanted you to see as well. Aaron worked really hard on those. Number 21 through 23, we do have some cooperative purchasing agreements that we need you to approve, the state, as well as one from the Ed Service Commission of New Jersey and Hunterdon County Ed Services Commission. Then we have two rather large resolutions, but very, very important, especially number 33, very important. That is for our new firewall system, not only to purchase it, but to enter into a lease purchase agreement with the DeLog Land and Public Finance Company, as well as for our business administrator, Ms. Hill, and our board attorney to take all necessary steps to effectuate that. That's a big step for us. We all know how important digital security is at this time. Number 34, also a very important one. It's our new 3-year contract with Cablevision Lightpath, which is also, for obvious reasons, very, very important in this digital era. Number 35, we are asking you to reject some bids. We talked about this at our last meeting, in which we, thanks to Ms. Hill, she found statutory language that stated that if we went out for a second bid and we received bids that we felt were too high, we could then enact a certain process. So the first step in that process is to reject those bids.
Yes.
And then finally, we have the athletic worker event stipends that we're asking you to approve for the 2017-18 school year.
Okay, thank you very much. Also pointing out, Ms. Hill and I spoke about this, the workshop in Atlantic City this year is actually a workshop that's going to start on Monday and run through Thursday, so we're approving an additional overnight hotel stay. The exhibits will start on Tuesday, as they always have, but there will be additional training on Monday if board members want to take advantage of it. Any comments? Oh.
Monday's the first day or just a training day?
Monday is a training day. There's no exhibit floor, but it's not just the mandatory training. It's going to be additional classes and training.
Is there a schedule out of what they're offering yet?
I believe it's online, or at least it's starting to be online. It's not finalized yet. They're still working that through.
So did you book all those nights?
Every board member needs to let Ms. Hill know if they want the additional night.
So once we get the schedule, we can tell you which nights we want? Like, suppose we want the first night instead of the last night if
We could do
training
that. We can make
Yeah.
changes for a while still. Right now, everybody's booked for those second 2 nights.
is the second.
So the 24th and the
What's your deadline
25th.
to know by?
It, probably like a month beforehand.
Oh.
Yeah, I
So
think
we
it's-
have
it's
plenty of
sometime
time.
mid-September.
Yeah.
Any other comments or questions on finance?
I have a question.
Mrs. Bacco?
On number 15, in the contracts, for Arthur Gallagher, it says it was a 3-year contract. And I don't remember us ever having this is the first time we've switched brokers. What happens if we're not happy? Can we terminate that contract before the 3 years?
I'd have to review the contract, but our attorneys always make sure we have an exit clause.
Okay, 'cause
So
I never
it's
I
typically a
always thought
60-day.
they were yearly.
I think we discussed
Yeah, I always
discussed
thought they
that.
were year to year.
Yeah, all of our contracts, even if they're a multi-year, we always have an exit clause to get out of those.
Okay. And on number 26, it says it's no cost to the board, so is the assumption the employee's paying for that? Is there a fee
Yes.
to the employee? Do we ever look at the fees for other companies, or?
The third-party administrator gets paid by the, like AXA or MetLife or whoever uses them. So the employees don't pay for it directly, and we
Okay.
don't pay for it directly. It's all encompassed, and it makes it easier for people like AXA and MetLife, and it makes it easier for us. And the employees have somebody to go to directly with questions, and they know much more about it than my office would.
Okay, thanks. Oh, wait, I have one more question.
Sure.
Dr. Labby, on page number 8, for G, is that paraprofessional being provided by the school? Lake Drive program?
Hold on. Your question is what?
The paraprofessional, is that the school provides, or do we provide that?
The school
The
provides,
school
and we pay
provides
for it. And that's embedded into their tuition contract. Basically, we do an ESY with paraprofessional and a regular school year with paraprofessional contract. It lumps into one. That one tends to be a very expensive one, not including the transportation to get up there.
Also, a question on the firewall, and I don't know if you know this or if we need to engage our new assistant superintendent, but
I believe he's in the building.
I think he may be, yes. Does this have the automatic screening feature where there's a greater likelihood of us automatically detecting any type of, infiltration into our network as opposed to a manual reading of logs?
I'm not going to be foolish enough to answer that question, Mr. Sayak. Mr. Glock?
It does, and in addition, we had,
Sorry, Mr. Glock. Thank you, sir.
yes, Mr. Sack, it does. In addition to that, we were able to reach a negotiation with Cisco where instead of just the software that we needed to operate the firewall, we were able to engage in a Cisco licensing agreement where we're going to get their entire suite of software security. A lot of that has automation in it as well. At no beyond budget costs, we're moving some money around from different accounts to canceling some other services we had to do it. But overall, it'll be a comprehensive security plan beyond the firewall.
Excellent. Very good.
And we're looking forward to you being right up here with us at the hot seat.
I thought you'd be here now, but I know you don't really officially start till July 1, so
See you next week.
you get one more meeting where you can actually get some work done while we're meeting.
Make the best of it.
All right, any other questions on finance? Okay, moving on.
Vision 2030 Student Achievement, there's one motion, but I think it's a real special motion. We have a Boy Scout who's going to be working on his Eagle Scout project at the Arleth Elementary School, and I can't thank the Boy Scout Troop 96, as well as Mr. Preston, for giving him that opportunity. Governance, moving on, unless there's any questions on that. Governance, we have 4 different motions, all of which are pretty significant. Naturally, we have our normal, but our final HIB report. We have two very important plans for you to approve, our 2017-18 district mentoring as well as professional development plans. And I thank Ms. Johnson and Dr. Shediak for working to put those together. And finally, number 4, this is an annual regulation that the Department of Education asks us to ask you to approve. Basically, we're asking you to approve all of the New Jersey Department of Education Office and Special Education policies and procedures for eligibility under the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. All of those policies that are within our board policy handbook, we have to reapprove them and so forth. So I'll have to write off a statement of assurance and get that up to the County Department of Ed after this meeting, once you approve that.
Any questions on governance? Okay.
Moving
Personnel?
along to personnel, I do have, as it is a tradition of ours, we do have some people that are retiring. I didn't have a chance to talk about Barry Proudman, so I'd like to begin with Barry Proudman. Barry Proudman started his career on January 2nd, 2001, as a second-shift variably assigned custodian at the high school. He has held many positions within the district. From the high school, Barry went to a second-shift custodian at the Arleth Elementary School, and then went to second shift at the Sayreville School. From Sayreville, Mr. Proudman then became the lead custodian at the Wilson Elementary School, followed by truck driver for the district and then grounds department, where he found his home. He became lead groundskeeper on July 1, 2015. Barry has always worked hard and took great pride in everything he has done for the Sayreville School District. He has stepped up to the plate whenever needed and always gets the job done on time and done impeccably. Barry is always willing to go the extra yard for this reason, and he will be truly missed by all. We wish Mr. Proudman, as well as Mrs. Proudman, who we all know very, very well, the absolute best in his retirement. He has been an incredible asset to this district, and he certainly will be greatly missed. Along those same lines, Helena Narkovich is our lead custodian at the Samsel Upper Elementary School, and she too is retiring. Helena started with the Sayreville Board of Education on October 21st, 2002, again as a variably assigned custodian on the second shift at the high school. She worked very hard and took great pride in everything she did. This is the reason that when we opened up the reconstructed Samsel Upper Elementary School, she was the perfect candidate for the very important task of being the lead custodian, and therefore she was transferred there on July 1st, 2004. Due to Helena's dedication and pride in her school, as well as the staff and students, she's made it easy for her to adjust to all the changes that have occurred throughout the years. She is always upbeat, happy, greeting everyone with a beautiful smile. She handled intense summer cleaning smoothly, and by the way, the pain in the neck can't excel. She moved her way around all of that work, and still did an amazing job of cleaning the Samsel Upper Elementary School and making it ready for each school year. She has been an asset to the school district and will truly be missed by everyone. We wish her well in this next chapter of her life. And I just want to say on a personal note, I've had a chance to work with both Mr. Proudman in some small capacities, but more or less quite a bit with Helena during Camp Excel, our extended school year program, and she certainly is amazing. The manner in which she works with her co-workers, the manner in which she takes great pride in the cleanliness of that building and the sanitation of those rooms, because she understands how important it is that our staff and our students remain as healthy as possible. It's just truly amazing. And quite inspiring to see as a superintendent. So just as with Mr. Proudman, we wish Helena and Victor, her husband, the absolute best in Helena's retirement. Moving along, numbers 5 through 23, which can be found on page 12, we're asking you to hire 5 new tenure-track teachers. We're real excited about that. Number 7, we do have a motion for you to transfer some custodians that we're asking you to approve. Number 10, we're asking you to approve to renew full-time and part-time paraprofessionals for the 2017-18 school year, and we've even provided their assignments there as well. Numbers 15, 27, and through 29, we're asking you, first of all, to approve the hiring of some non-certified and 1 substitute teacher for the 17-18 school year, as well as to renew the current certified and non-certified substitutes for the 2017-18 school year. We did have some some matters that we had to work out with some substitutes. So there are some substitutes that started the year with us that are not going to be on that renewal list. But a good bulk of the substitutes that we started with this year, we're asking you to renew. And you can find that on page 14 in the addendum. And finally, we have a very special appointment that we're asking you to approve. After a long search, we found ourselves an incredible candidate for Director of Technology, Operations, and Digital Security. As you know, it's a new position, a new job description that you approved, and I believe Mr. Woranowitz is here tonight, and he is by far the most qualified person that I can think of for this position. He has done an amazing job since he has been in our district. He is one of, along with Mr. Glock, one of the experts in this district when it comes to technology, and certainly one of the most integral members of our technology team that has helped us to effectuate the many technological advances that we've made in this district. So it gives me absolute great pride to recommend to you his appointment this evening.
Any questions on personnel?
I have a question. Dr. Labby?
Yes.
The paraprofessional list, do you know offhand, were we able to renew everyone from last year?
Yes,
in quantity?
there are no non-renewals. Unless someone decided to step away and so
For
forth, yeah.
quantity purposes?
Yeah.
I have a question. The substitute list, how
Yes.
are those substitutes renewed? Do they fill out applications every year? What
They
is the
receive a letter
process?
where they're asked if they want to come back to us. And then they also have to go through the human resources test too. All of our teachers this year began completing evaluations on our substitutes. Unfortunately, there were about, I would say, 6 or 7 that received over 3 negative evaluations. So unfortunately, they were asked to not return.
Okay.
Anyone else on personnel?
But Mr. Pinto, if I could just add, if there's, you're looking like there's somebody that should be on that list that isn't.
No,
If we forgot a name,
no,
please let us know.
that's not it. Thank you.
I got to give Mrs. Magelnicki a great deal of credit. She's now the person in our Board of Education office who is handling substitutes, and she's, in a very short period of time, has done a magnificent job.
I'm just wondering, each one of these were checked to make sure they belong on the list.
We do send out that letter, and they're not supposed to be on that list unless they did verify with us that they'd like to return.
Okay.
I'm not saying that there might be someone that's on there that may not have sent a letter, and if that is the case, we'll rectify that, but I'm almost certain everybody on that list is someone that said, yes, I'd like to return as a substitute, if we want them back.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else on personnel? Mr. Aranowitz, congratulations and good luck in a new position. Keep our network safe. All right, that concludes the superintendent's report. Any comments on the superintendent's report before I open the public on agenda item, or the superintendent's report only, for agenda items? Okay, hearing none, I'll open the public on agenda items only. If you wish to speak, please come to the microphone and state your name and address for the record. Hearing none, we'll close public, and I'll take a motion to approve the superintendent's report.
So moved.
By Mrs. Bloom. I have a second by Mr. McEnroe. Any comments on the superintendent's report? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Balka?
Okay, abstain on A, number 8, page 2. Yes on all other items.
Mrs. Bacco?
Yes.
Mr. Bashada?
Yes.
Mrs. Bloom?
Yes.
Mrs. DePinto?
Yes.
Mr. Esposito?
Yes.
Mr. Magno?
Yes.
Mr. Walsh?
Yes.
Mr. Syak?
Yes. Okay. We'll move on to our committee reports. Vision 2030 Finance.
The report.
Vision 2030 Infrastructure.
No report, but at the next meeting, I will have one for you.
Vision 2030 Student Achievement.
No report.
Told you this could be a quick meeting. Vision 2030 Governance, I'm going to follow the trend and not have any report. Vision 2030 Personnel.
No report at this time.
Can definitely tell it's summer.
I have a policy question.
Sure.
At the last meeting, you said the policies were on the portal.
Yes.
Is it the portal where I get my mail? Because I couldn't find it.
You gotta go to the Board of Ed portal.
Yeah, it's on the portal where you have the, all the attachments for the, for the.
It's the first thing
board
when you,
agenda.
Where it says BOE Workspace, that's where I go?
Yes.
yes.
Yep.
It's
And where
also,
is it? I couldn't find it.
it's also on the website.
It's on the website for everyone.
Where is it
15,
on
16,
the-
that
Yeah,
might have to
that's-
be changed.
No, it was changed. Mr. Sack changed that.
When did you last look?
Yesterday or 2 days ago?
Then we don't-
It shouldn't say 15, 16.
Refresh.
I'll take a look at that. We may have to correct that, but I know that Mr. Syak updated the manual.
Yeah, it
and
may
it's
just
on the
have not
website.
gotten onto the website itself. Okay. Other questions?
I have something.
Yes.
We could open session in this one?
Yes.
So there was some talk, I guess, a day after the graduation about air horns and the use of them and the fact that, and we were all there, right? So the fact that people's names couldn't be heard. So there was a whole thing on Facebook, which I don't usually respond to, but I did say something that we at least discuss it, because I myself am in favor of banning them at these types of ceremonies. I don't think they have a place in these types of ceremonies. I think enough applause and maybe yelling out someone's name is good enough. So I just like to see what the board thinks, and maybe we could put something in policy.
I think many of us heard it the evening of graduation regarding that issue. And it wasn't so much even just the air horns, but the fact that, people were, sounding them off through 4 or 5
Yes.
students' names.
Yes.
We can certainly put something in policy, and we can confer with Dr. Labby in terms of how he would go about implementing that to make sure that it's, can be addressed.
How are you going to prevent people from coming in with an air horn in their pocket
Well,
or
I
a bag?
mentioned this to Mr. Brown at the end of the ceremony, and I said I will make a motion to ban them, and he said, good, do it, but then you'll have to provide personnel to make sure they don't come in. And I said to Dr. Labby, we're very much talking about security, and we have students passing out programs at the gate, and we have teachers selling water, but there's really no security. Anyone can come in. We're not screening people. In a big event like that, if you're talking about security, what we may need to do is, once we get some part-time security people in place, to make sure that that's part of their duty, to be at those gates, and beforehand, make sure the students know, to tell their parents, everybody is excited, we understand that, but everyone deserves the respect to have their name heard at their graduation. So they can, wand people, whatever, however we want to do it, but say that they're banned and make sure no one comes in with them. I thought it was horrible, because as Kevin said, there were through 4 or 5 names. You couldn't hear your child's name, and you waited 12 years to hear that name.
It is, excellent point, and the newly hired security probably should be doing that, starting next year. But somebody said there was a letter sent out to parents. Is that true or untrue? A couple of parents told me that there were letters, can and can't do's kind of thing. at these
I'm sure
ceremonies.
there probably has been,
But we don't
letters
see
sent. It doesn't come from me, it goes from Mr. Brown.
Oh, it does? Oh, to the graduates? It's not like this, a bomber blast? Maybe it should be a bomber blast.
I believe that the graduates are all giving specific instructions in terms of what they can do and what they cannot do. And I believe also parents attending to celebrate their graduates also receive some form of notice in terms of what is allowed and what's not. I'm not positive, I haven't seen that, but, I can definitely look into that.
Okay.
But, yeah, naturally, if this is a direction that the board wants to go in terms of making it pretty explicit that we're not going to allow this device any longer into our graduation, we'd have to provide ample notice to our students. No better time than at the beginning of the school year when we could put it in our handbooks, making sure that both our middle school parents and students, as well as our high school parents and students, understand that they are no longer allowed at any functions, graduation functions and so forth. Throughout the year, as we begin to provide them with more information about the promotion ceremony at the middle school or the graduation ceremony here, we can continue to express to them that they are not permitted and that someone will be at the gate to ensure that they are not brought in. And if you are found with one, you may risk not being allowed in to the event too. So we can certainly take the steps. No better time than the beginning of the year to begin providing ample notice to everyone.
How was the middle school ceremony? Because I was at a graduation or someone else.
I don't recall hearing any air horns.
Wasn't like the high school.
So is it your intent to check bags?
If necessary, first of all, for security
Or
purposes,
ban the bags?
I don't, for security purposes, you go to any kind of event, you're really, I think that they allow, women purses and things like that, but any kind of bags need to be checked. We could go through that process. if we needed to.
We pay for a significant number of police officers there. Is that a function that they can?
I don't know why anybody to a graduation ceremony would bring a bag.
What about police?
I could see at a sporting event, maybe somebody brings a bag for water and things like that, but not for a 1-hour graduation. We could certainly utilize the police. I'm sure that they wouldn't be happy that we're asking them to check bags. I think you made a good mention about a security, but we do have police presence there. Having someone next to them
Right.
while we're checking the bag, someone right there, just in case someone gets upset
Right.
and causes a commotion. I can certainly see us doing that. And again, I think that's a great idea to have our new security team be the ones that go ahead and check those bags. And again, if someone refuses to allow someone to check their bag, then they don't bring the bag in. That's the course we can take. And that's not only for air horns, that's just good security practice. I mean, there's a lot of people there.
And another thing that I noticed, which I don't remember ever occurring before, was normally we would exit the students all off of the field, and the teachers always formed a guard so that the kids could walk off of the field without having the relatives rush them. People never got off the field, and, you know, we're concerned about the condition of that turf that is hanging on a wing and a prayer. There were people all over the field, and I had never seen that before at graduation. So we really need to impress upon the staff that everybody, the kids have to get out of the stadium area. And people were coming back in. As I was trying to get out, there were people coming back in to get onto the field. So that needs to be addressed as well.
And along those same lines, at the middle school promotion, parents actually, when they were arriving, were walking directly across the field because the gate was open, there was no presence there. They were walking directly across the field to get to the home bleachers.
I think security could direct them next
Yeah.
year.
Right.
Absolutely.
Absolutely, it's a good point.
Hey, anything else on graduation? By the way, graduation was, despite this issue, graduation was a wonderful event, and we congratulate the class of 2017, as well as our middle schoolers who are now going to be high school freshmen. Any other comments for other business?
Yeah, I have a question. About 8 years ago, I went to several Eagle Scout Courts of Honor, and we had a resolution from the Board of Ed. It was nicely framed, and it was very nicely worded because of the significance of an Eagle Scout, accomplishment, which is, for some of these kids, it's a lifelong
Yes.
endeavor. I'd like to have a mechanism where we can find out in this school, I know we have pretty active scouting in this, if we have Eagle Scouts, I think that's something we should honor here at a Board of Ed meeting, a kid that achieves that level, even if it's not a district student, if it's a Sayreville student, like this young man that's doing the
Connor.
Court of Honor, I don't know if he's a Sayreville school, is he? That's something that we should recognize, because that's a significant accomplishment, because that takes years to do, and a very small percentage of scouts that actually start the program reach that rank. So, number one, I'd like to find out if we, in our archives, if we have a resolution, because I know we had it before, because I remember representing the board and going to a couple of these and handing them out.
And I think I've got a copy of that as well, because I did it in my past years as president.
If we can make that a practice and maybe have the high school administration inform us about Eagle Scout, Dr. Labby, because I think that's something worthy of recognition here within the district.
And then I think, along with that would be Girl Scout Gold, I think is the highest
Certainly,
award for the Girl Scouts.
certainly.
I know the McKay family, Connor's been working, I believe, since first grade towards this.
Right.
So,
Yeah, I mean, it's just a lifelong endeavor, so.
It's Girl Scout Gold, you
Yeah,
said?
I think it's Girl Scout
Yeah,
Gold.
Yeah, it's the same as level at that.
Yeah,
highest
it's a great
rank.
idea.
So, that's all I have, Mrs. Sack.
Mrs. Bacco, you want to add?
Yes, Dr. Labby, at the last Eisenhower PTO meeting, there was a request for Election Day, if maybe we can have a PLC day or a half day. They were concerned about the traffic in that school on Election Day. It was, I had asked if there was, they say there's nowhere else to put the polls or how it was, but they said it was pretty,
Which election day are we talking
well,
about?
it would have been prime. It would have
The
been
November
June
election day?
Oh,
Yeah,
June.
June.
Oh, June, oh, we had
Yeah, it would've
we
been
had school
June, and
then, yeah.
they were concerned about the traffic in that
Oh,
building.
you mean
Yeah.
the primary?
The primary, but that doesn't, yeah. So whenever we have our next gubernatorial primary, can you remind me of that? How often do we have an election in June?
No, we've got a primary election every year, but
year.
I guess the attendance would probably
Well,
be the
maybe, I don't
highest.
know, but
for
this,
Yeah, I mean, I don't recall this ever being a problem.
Right.
no, this is,
They brought it up.
they thought it was a problem this June.
I haven't heard any other concerns from any of the other buildings.
Well, maybe it's the uniqueness of that school.
Eisenhower, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
No, Eisenhower was a problem on a daily basis. I mean,
Yeah.
I've heard from parents.
You mean from a
that-
parking issue?
Yeah, almost kids, on a regular basis, kids are almost really getting hit. It's dangerous.
Well, I mean, it's a tight area, and there's a lot of students there. I mean, Wilson also has a difficult time in the morning and in the afternoon, and we, often, the Sayreville police come down and make sure that everybody is following the rules, but, getting a lot of parents to cooperate in terms of fulfilling the procedures that they're asked to fulfill, sometimes becomes a very difficult endeavor for our building administration in those particular schools, because they're, it's just, everything is so tight. But I mean, I'll definitely look into that. I mean, Dr. Aguilis did not say anything to me with regard to it being a problem. So
He didn't seem to disagree, though. I mean, I asked him, it was the PTO that.
I'll follow up with him, though.
Or-
Mrs. Backo, I remember, was it a couple of years ago that we tried to get the
Yeah,
freeholders
I know, it
to
was-
move the elections out of the schools?
Yeah, actually,
Wouldn't you
yeah.
think
That was more than a couple of years ago.
all
Yeah, it
of
was
the
more than a couple of years
security
ago.
issues in schools that have occurred, that they would be willing to not have strangers coming into the building when the kids are there?
The
And I
answer is
did just-
simple, close the
And I
schools
think
on
we got
election
one
day.
poll move from Wilson, right?
Yeah.
Wilson, right. And I did actually, when the PTO brought it up, Dr. Aguiles actually chuckled because it was me at the school, since I was the one that made such an issue about getting the polls out of the schools.
And we couldn't get them to do it,
And I
right?
explained how it happened
Yeah,
and
we went to the
why we
freeholder
were
meeting.
told
Yes.
no and why we couldn't get it out of the school. But, so that, I guess the request was maybe you could make it a half a day. I know we have teacher training. I said I would bring it here.
I know that the county office of elections probably has more to say about this than anything, but I know, in the community that I'm from,
The
The smaller-
county said no.
the smaller the election, the less polling areas that they require. So I'm not sure why we require the same number of polling areas for elections that may not get the same turnout as others.
Probably so people know exactly where to go vote. And-
Right,
and
I
not
guess
wondering what-
continuity and so forth,
Right.
but I mean, it does
Yeah.
place a great burden on the schools, I will agree with that.
Yes, it does. Anyone else for comments or other issues?
Discussion.
Discussions?
Last night, I attended a council meeting about the rezoning and everything. A woman got up and called Dr. Labby, and she was informed by Dr. Labby he knew nothing about what was proposed with these new ordinances that they were for COA and et cetera. She didn't badmouth you, believe me, nothing like that. But,
Did you?
no, I did not. No, I did not.
I'll tell you what he said later.
But,
My ears were ringing, what time was this?
No, it was about 9 o'clock, 8:30, 9 o'clock. But anyhow, the point of the matter is that, as a board, I think we've got to start keeping a closer eye what's going to happen with this additional development that they're proposing here in Sayreville. There's four sections of Sayreville that they're proposing for redevelopment with housing units, some with COA, some with regular resale value, and it's only going to add to the school district. I think we have to work with the council and the planning board to come up with something that's going to, not cause an influx and overcrowding and causing the taxpayers for more school staff, et cetera.
Well, as you know, I did establish that committee last year, and we did meet, it was Lucy, at least twice, and if not 3 times.
I believe we met 3 times.
Looking at, to address this and the whole driving factor behind it. And Dr. Labby is well aware of the point. I did not talk to him about the 4 parcels and what the COA numbers were, because at that last meeting, those numbers hadn't come out yet, and we really didn't know what we were looking at. But all of those 4 things together don't compare to what's going to happen at the point with the number of units. And now that there's a new developer being interviewed to take that project over, I was talking to a couple of Sarah people offside last night, and, Sarah's on top of that, but they don't have any answers as far as if the developer's going to come in and honor the redevelopment plan that's already been approved. It's probably not. They're going to come in with their own plan. And if you look at the developments throughout the nation right now, the malls and the big box stores, those things are, not worth building anymore because of what's closing. So that was included in what was going to be at the point. So a new developer comes in. My concern is it's going to be more than 2,000 units. What is those numbers going to look like? And then you add what the affordable housing requirement is going to be as well. That becomes, although some of those will be in that development. But I share your concern, but Dr. Labby is aware of the point because he's been at the meeting. But as far as those 4 parcels, no, we didn't discuss that in much detail because the last time we had that meeting, and maybe we need to have another one, maybe before school starts, maybe the latter part of the summer, just to kind of get up to speed. I think July 6th is a big date as far as when they go back to the judge to see if it will be delayed. This COA allotment right now, I think, is from 2015 to 2025, is it? The 10-year span on what they need to do. And those 4 parcels are just areas that could be developed, because Sayreville doesn't have a lot of spots that we can do this, and it's going to be an ongoing problem, Tom, and we got to match the timing of this and be proactive and not reactive. The last thing we want to do is to make a big addition to a school or build another school, and then those developments don't materialize. So how do you time it so that when the population's there, this building is there? And that's going to be something that we're going to have to talk about.
Well, I think that was why we looked at the buildings that we could possibly rent.
Sure.
You know,
Oh, sure.
in that event, you could use
Yeah.
that as a stopgap
Right.
till you get something built. But again, if they're going to give pilot programs to all these residential units, we're never going to have any money to do it.
I agree with the sentiment that one lady that came up at the beginning, is that this is the biggest issue that's going to face this town in probably a long time. And I think us, as a Board of Ed, the Planning Board, Sarah, and the council working together to put our minds together to do this smartly is the best process. I think in it together is a better concept than you're on your own. And I think that's the message that we need to go forward with this.
Mr. McEnroe, if a new developer comes in for the point, I know that there was money that was supposed to be allocated for the impact of the schools. Does
Right.
that then go away, or are we unsure of that?
Well, we don't know, because the redevelopment plan has been approved and it's on the books. It was $19 million supposed to be allocated to the school districts and impact from that project. Whether a new development come in and honor that, we don't know. You know, we're going to start from scratch, are they going to honor some of it? I don't know idea. I don't think anybody can answer that question
Gotcha, okay.
until that happens, and I think Sarah is aware of that, and, so, it's a good question. I don't know. I can't answer that.
I have one other question. Dr. Labby, Mr. Diadio mentioned last night, the head of Sarah, that with the Club Benet property, that it's fully rented, and we only received 4 students out of that location. That's the one down on 35, Route 35 here.
Morgan Bluff.
Morgan's Bluff, yeah.
What's it called?
Morgan Bluff. That's
Morgan
true,
Bluff.
Tom, because I asked the transportation director tonight, and she understood there was about 3 or 4 kids from there.
You know, I can't understand there's 64 extra bedrooms in there unless they're hiding someplace.
Well, I don't think that's an ideal place that people would want to move with kids. That's okay. I'm not complaining that 4 kids are coming from there.
All right, well, that's my comment, really. I think we've got to pay attention to what's going on.
We are.
have to.
I don't say we're not. We are.
You know, and the cave-in to a judge who is supposed to enforce the laws, not make laws, I think is wrong. And I brought that up last night about the way the Constitution is written. And I think we should challenge. That's my honest opinion. You know, anybody who was there, you can watch it on TV. You can see exactly what I said.
And you were on the radio, too.
Yes, I
I
was.
thought there was something wrong with my car. I recognized that angelic voice, and it's just
Yes, I was.
Tom
I
Brashad.
mentioned also, I called 1015 yesterday morning. Everybody was complaining about, their cuts in budgets, et cetera, and all. I said, I just happened to be on the Board of Education in Sayreville, and we started last year with a $9 million deficit, and we started this year with 7 for this year's budget. And I said, we worked through it. We had to make cuts here and there, and we survived, and we're providing the education and the services that our students need. I'm tired of hearing, like Tom's River crying, we're getting cheated out of $3.5 million, like, suck it up and do something about it, do like we do, What did we have to do? We had to do away with courtesy busing. We had to do away with other issues that had to be addressed here, and these are things that we survive, and even though we're $21 million underfunded, we still provide a great education for our students.
Well, and the other piece of this help too is, Dr. Labby and Mr. Nasser and the team have transitioned students from out of district in. That's provided not only a better education for those students because they're here at home, but it saved us a lot of money that we've been able to reinvest in our educational programs. So as we've been able to find those not only efficient programs but effective programs, it's helped us to be able to continue to improve education here.
Speaking of state funding, either Ms. Hill or Ms. Syke, any indication as to how this vote's going to go? With, I know we're due like 1.1 million if they redistrict some of this money or redistribute some of the money. Any word on, I can't see It looks as though they're going to pass this. That's the,
Yeah, I don't know how the vote's going to go. We haven't been able to get a flavor for that one yet. I mean, the concern, there's two concerns with it. Number one, the fact that it's so late in the process, and that if there's any reapportionment of money from some districts to others, it's going to create an immediate impact when budgets have already been struck. And then you've got a lot of the groups, including New Jersey school boards and the NJEA, who oppose any type of funding reform that will result in a decrease to a member district.
even if the district is such as Hoboken.
Is overfunded, yes. Yeah.
Well, there's a next pot of money, and if you give more to some districts, you're going to be giving less to other districts.
Absolutely. And look, and that's the difference between any, member services organization, whether you're the New Jersey Education Association or the New Jersey School
The
Boards
advocate for all.
Association.
I understand.
Right, you're not going to take a position where you're going to say, we're going to favor Sayreville, and we're not going to worry about Hoboken. From our perspective, the plan makes perfect sense, because you've got a district that is, overfunded according to the formula,
Right.
and you're looking to reapportion. But certainly, if we were Hoboken, I don't think we'd be singing that same tune.
So is this vote going to be taken before the new governor takes over, or is that something that's going to happen now before the election?
It's supposed to, yes.
It's supposed to be very soon.
Yeah.
Very soon.
And then when would that money be available? I mean, this fiscal year?
Yes.
Supposedly, yes.
It is an issue, doesn't school
Checks
boards
in the
recognize
mail.
the issue? I mean, we play North Brunswick in basketball, and they have so much money, the entire team, from freshman to varsity, has brand-new Nike shoes, because they have to spend the money.
Yep.
I mean, you gotta recognize there's an issue there.
Oh, they absolutely recognize it's an issue, but the solution from their perspective is that the formula itself is not being fully funded. So they support the full funding of the formula, and they don't want any type of penalization to any district. So if a district is in a situation where they're overfunded, you're going to let them be until the rest of the districts catch up.
Well, that's good fiscal sense.
Again, they're a member services organization. That's
That's why we are where we are. Highest tax state in the union. All right.
any other comments or discussion?
I have one other question, back to the Blue Ribbon Committee. Has there been any progress? We had talked about speaking to Mayor McCormick and Woodbridge. Has anybody followed up on that? I thought the Blue Ribbon Committee was,
That
Well,
wasn't
that
the
was,
ribbon
Tom
committee.
had given me some information,
Right.
but since nothing was moving here, but again, that shouldn't come from us, that has to come from the Borough Council.
The-
They're gonna be the people who are willing to fund bonding, that
Right.
is not our initiative.
Yeah, and actually, the Middlesex County Education Association honored Mayor McCormick for his contributions to education in Woodbridge. And basically, what they're doing, the mayor and the council, is, and I think Mr. Bashada explained this, I mean, they're basically bonding and taking the money, the revenue that they're getting from the pilot program, and allocating it to pay off the bonds. So they're doing massive improvements to the school district, taking on long-term debt, and then taking the payment in lieu of taxes money that they're getting to make the bond payments. But you need a mayor and council that's committed to allocating the funds towards education.
no, I understood that. I thought the Blue Ribbon Committee was going
Well, you
to
were
try
there
to.
you were there when we met with the people from the Borough Council, we couldn't even get them to recognize that pilot was a problem.
Right, that was a
Right.
pilot, right.
So, how are we gonna get them to work with us on bonding? But that has to come from them, they have to be the people willing to do that.
I just thought we were making an initiative, okay?
Well, maybe you want to chair the committee then, Phyllis.
Anyone else? Okay, hearing none, we'll open up to public for any item concerning the district. If you wish to speak, please come to the microphone and state your name and address for the record. Welcome back, Mrs. Kilcummins. Yeah, I don't think it's on.
We can hear you.
Mr. Glock Malloy turned it off.
You didn't want to
There
hear
you
me
go.
anyway, did you? It's okay. Barbara Kilcummins, 22 Schmidt Street. I also attended that meeting yesterday, and I'm extremely discouraged. First of all, it starts with the pilot program. And to hear the head of SARA, Chairman, Mr. Daddio, claim, oh, there's only 4 students. Well, we only have 4 students, and everybody was afraid there would be so many and whatever. There's only 4. pilot, payment in lieu of taxes. I'm on a fixed income, retired. I have no children attending school, and I don't mind paying, but I'm paying my fair share. What I'm worried about is now with COA, how many homes are going to come in, and they set a precedent, and I reminded them of this. Every developer is going to want a pilot program. So you're going to have maybe 750 homes with how many children coming in? No tax money for the schools. And I see no cooperation between the council, the planning board, Sarah, recognizing the Board of Education. Don't they care about education? I do. When I told you that I didn't oppose even the budget, whatever. I oppose wasteful spending downtown. I'm very vocal and everybody knows it. I mean, the last meeting prior, $4.5 million they were spending on unnecessary things and bonding. They love to bond. But I think you have to be prepared and be very visual, very vocal about this COA and what's going on. I mean, there's 700 and some homes. Am I correct? 700?
There's more than that.
There's more than that.
There's
I'm not
more than
counting the 2,000 there. Forget it. You have to plan. You have to be prepared. I don't care if it's renovating Slover, looking for property to build a school. I mean, fine, it's a 10-year window, but you have to plan, and you have to be prepared. And then the kicker is, no money. They're not going to be giving you education money. And it's wrong. And they set this precedent for this. I spoke to Mr. Gillette Mr. Gillette passed away when he was building the senior. Now, there's no one to educate. But he said to me, Barbara, do you think I'm a fool? I'm going to apply for a pilot also. So they are prepared to go. So whatever developer, be it Mr. Kay, Mr. Kaplan, whomever comes to build, and they seem to be the main ones, they're going to be requesting pilots also. And I see doing nothing. Nobody, the Board of Education isn't as a group complaining. I watched the meeting yesterday with these people from Melrose. They were not informed and they weren't about what was going on. In a short time, in less than 1 week, they got 450 signatures on a petition to complain. Just about one parcel of land, which they have the option to purchase from National Lead. They have $5 million sitting in a fund there for open space. Then, prior to the meeting, Jeremiah from Rutgers gave a plan about environment of what they could do for MacArthur and Weber Avenue. I knew for a fact they have $500,000 sitting in the Shade Tree Commission. But they were prepared to tax or to put a bond, I forget, I think $70,000 just for starters, for trees, or more, a lot more, and for starters. It's like the right hand doesn't know what the left hand is doing. And I'm watching this. I've been attending meetings for 50 years in this town. And it's very, very discouraging to just watch what's going on. And when I look, no one, anyone I talk to, has absolutely no respect for Sarah. They have no respect for the planning board. When you were appointed to a planning board, it was a prestigious position. You were appointed and you planned for your community and be appointed by the mayor and whatever. Oh, I'm a member of the planning board. Forget it. They don't respect because they really didn't plan. Then you have Sarah. Sarah replaced the Industrial Commission. The Industrial Commission was there to look for ratables for the community. What did Sarah bring in? Cogenerations. 6 of them. One of them, O'Brien, that was connected to DuPont's, was supposed to provide energy for the middle school, the library, and the high school. Didn't happen. Red Oaks, one of the proposals came in. I attended a few planning board meetings then. They were supposed to provide computers for the students. You allow me? Then we started with 10-year abatements. Then it went to 20-year abatements. This is our so-called SERA. Right now, the latest one down on Journey Mill Road, it's going to be built on landfill 3, another cogeneration. That's all they seem to bring in. 30-year abatement. Now SERA is concerned about housing. When they built Morgan Bluffs, now because of the property, Tellerico, which is behind the old Washington School, the senior building, they want to build a high-rise for veterans. Am I correct? Am I off from my...
9
Okay.
stories high.
How many?
9.
9 stories high. So now SERA has become in the housing business, which I'm sure they will give them a pilot also. What happens to the children? What happens to the education in this community? I spoke to Mr. O'Neill, and I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. McEnone, they were going to give, after the point, I think it was $16 million donated towards education, or was it, how much?
19 million.
19, I know it was
Right.
close to that. What is 19 million? Nothing. This addition on the high school costs 50 million.
Almost.
You can't build a school for 19 million.
There you go.
But you people are quiet, you don't say anything. You're allowing Sarah, the planning board, and the mayor and council to run away with lack of education, lack of caring about education. Apparently, some of these heads of Sarah and the rest don't give a damn about education. And to me, I do. That's the future of this community. That's the community. This is it. This is what your town is judged on. This is what my ratables are. Do you know what I mean? I go to sell my house. The value of my homes, rather. Not my ratables. We have no ratables. We lost all our industry in this town. I rattled off parts of DuPont's, Hercules, National Lead, Jersey Central,
Sand Fisher,
Sarah and Fisher's.
Natco Brickworks.
Thank you. It goes on and on. And what did we replace them with? Cogenerations that gave away the store, gave abatements. So I don't know if this is a wake-up call for you people to get more vocal, to get the parents involved the way they did Melrose, where they got the residents involved, to say, look what's happening to your town. I see it. I watch it. I'm so discouraged, I had to leave that meeting. I was sick to my stomach. And it's just, nobody gives a damn until it's too late. You should be vocal now. Before they give the COA, fine. Let them pay their fair share of taxes. I don't mind paying my fair share. And I have no children in the school system, nor grandchildren here. But what? So, they only have 4 students. 4 students? I don't care. What is it, 10,000, 11,000 to educate one kid? That 44,000 could be a teacher's salary. It's just wrong. And I'm telling you, they're going to come asking for pilots. Trust me. And you, Mr. McEnone, you should be bringing more information back to this Board of Education. You sit on the planning board and whatever.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, and that's why last year we formed this committee, and we're looking at those things.
But what has the committee done? Where has it gone?
Well,
I don't see them at meetings. I don't see them anywhere.
well, what we're looking at is what do we do with this influx of students, mainly coming from the point? What schools is that going to affect? And there's several things. A couple of years ago, didn't we do a study on what would cost to retrofit Slover as a school?
Yes, we did.
We're looking at possibilities of, and this is a committee that also sits about 6 or 8 residents. We met at least twice, if not 3 times. Other options of adding on to Eisenhower or completely taking Slover out and building a new school at that location because we own the land. mean, those things that we're talking about, but we were just having this conversation earlier, as far as the timing. I don't know what's the new developer, the point's gonna come in, what number of units. The last time we had a meeting, the COA numbers weren't out yet. So what we don't want to do is add on and make this investment in the schools, and then those units never materialize. The whole idea is, to make sure that those schools are available when that population comes. As you know, that the COA is a 10-year window from 2015 to 25.
15 to 25.
You got to time that out, you got to figure that out. I mean, there's a lot involved, and like I said earlier, it's the biggest issue that's facing this town. And if you've been to planning board meetings, actually, there's 12 people here tonight, that's 12 more people that actually come to planning board
I know.
meetings.
Many times, I'm the only one there.
I've
I
been
know.
very vocal of the impact statements and the number of school-age children that these residents will bring. And in the planning board, it's very frustrating, because we have a lot of land, or we had a lot of land that developers have owned, that are zoned for residential. You can't prevent them from building residence, okay? That's what it's zoned for. And a lot of people don't understand what planning board does, but the planning board always gets the heat. Well, it's the planning board, the bypass rule. Well, that's the planning board, the development, it's the planning board. Well, New Jersey land use law says, developer wants to come in, and as you know, and it's frustrating, Mr. Brashada knows, we cannot deny applications for residents due to the traffic impact or the impact of the school districts.
But Mike, can I ask something?
But in spite of it, our infrastructure can't handle it, and you
No,
know
can't.
it.
No.
Our streets,
Yeah, absolutely not.
everything, we don't have it.
Could we restrict them to one bedroom, though, versus what they,
You can't restrict them, but we have negotiated in the past trying to get down the number of bedrooms and units, because obviously that would affect school-age children.
Right.
What is the build-out going to be with the new point? I don't know.
The sad thing is, it seems like the developers are in the driver's seat all the
Of
way
course they are.
around. And they promised, and I believe the mayor and everyone else, when they talked about the point, it was going to be the end-all, the be-all, to give us all these ratables and everything else, and it's going to reduce our taxes, and it's going to be wonderful. I hear nothing about any type of ratables. I know Prudential is taking it over. But you have, all they talked about, and anybody talks about, is the 2,000 homes.
No, listen, the Town Lake issue.
They don't want big box stores. They don't want, why not? Put a Costco there. I don't care what they
One
put
of the
for a
issues that the
rateable.
council talked about in the paper last week was the Camelot development, which is what we call the apartments, a part of Town Lake. Initially, when that thing came before the planning board, and Kaplan was developing, that was supposed to be age-restricted, okay? And that's what was approved there.
And the law changed, I
Well,
understand.
Governor Corzine,
Yeah.
and sponsored by local politicians, made a conversion, that you can take those things, because there was no funding in the state of New Jersey for senior developments. Well, it's 55 or 62 and over without children. So they went down to Trenton, and they got the governor to make this conversion. So now we went from age-restricted to market retail, and that's when the planning board denied that, because that was supposed to be for age-restricted, because age-restricted units don't generate school-age children. We went to court, and we lost, and that's how we got those apartments.
All right, but tell me, why wasn't the planning board more vigilant? He just put luxury apartments when he was supposed to put affordable apartments in there, and that would have helped us with and reduce the amount on there. It seems like nobody was after the developer of what he should have done and fulfilled his part of the bargain, and they allow him to get away.
Only thing we
The
wanted there-
developers are in the driver's seat, it seems.
What I wanted there was, what I wanted there was age-restricted development. If you want to build age-restricted affordable housing, I'm all for that. And that's the decision we made. We
I may
can't-
be a senior citizen, whatever, but it bothers me that there's nothing in Sayreville for seniors. We have no assisted living, we have no senior residence, one, Spinnaker Point. My son is an executive for whatever, the company that built it. It was sold out before the shovel went in the ground, so there is a need for it. Where do they go? Monroe. When we had Sandy and a terrible flood, I knew of 9 families right off the bat that went to Clearbrook and Spotswood that they could afford, because they were within they could afford between $250 and $300, whatever, what it cost. There was nothing in Sayreville. They wanted a house. They didn't want to go to Gillette Manor, and that's full anyway. Second one is on his way, and redevelopment tried to stop him
I know,
from putting that in.
I know.
That's our Sarah. So, I mean, I am extremely frustrated with this community that I care so much about, that it's not doing the right thing. It's not providing senior housing. It's not providing assisted living. I mean, fine. Councilwoman Kilpatrick said something about veterans, so there goes the 9th story for veterans in an area that's with a pond next to a barrel factory across the street from Neptune with high-tension wires. What an ideal location. So, I mean, I'm extremely frustrated, but all I want is this Board of Ed is to take a stand and be involved of what's coming down the pike for our community, because it affects the parents, the children, and especially education. And this was a wake-up call with Morgan Bluffs. And big deal, only 4 students. So that's a big deal. Oh, only 4 students. I have no students. I pay my fair share. And it was wrong that they allowed them to do that pilot. The mayor and council, they should never have approved that pilot.
Well, you remember, we went to that meeting, several of us from the board, Mrs. Backel, Mr. Bashada, and I think all
Yes.
went to that meeting over that concern. You saw how that went.
Well, I went nuts when they approved it. I've been to all those council meetings and
We couldn't
everything
even
when
get
they
a
allowed it.
philosophical agreement.
Pardon me?
We couldn't even get a philosophical agreement
No.
that in a pilot program, the Board of Ed should get the same rate that they get from typical tax
No.
property in town.
I was there. They totally ignored you.
Yeah.
So, you know what? It's election time. Maybe the public would be more informed about who they elect and how they vote and what they do with this. Sorry. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mrs.
Thank you,
Kilcummins.
Mrs. Kilcummins.
Mrs. Kilcummins, please don't leave the mic. I just wanted to say a few things. First of all, with the pilot program, I hope you were aware that I was one of the few people that came before the council. I wasn't on the board at the time. Came before the council and came before the
I was
planning
there.
board.
Yes, you did.
I had documentation about the O'Neill and his reputation in Pennsylvania. I presented it to him and what happened.
And what you predicted happened,
Okay.
right?
If you remember, I complained about the pilot program. I had documentation about what it would cost the district, et cetera, about the construction ideas that they had for the pilot program and there. I was the one that complained about what happened down at, whatever they call it, in Morgan. I've been on this, because like you say, I'm a lifelong resident of Sayreville. I'm proud of this town, and I want my sons to be proud of this town also. And I think, we have to stand together. That's the issue here. A lot of people aren't informed. Like Mr. Rittenhouse said last night, oh, well, everything's been on TV. Well, not everybody can sit down and watch TV.
They don't watch
Not
it.
everybody
They
can
don't
come
know.
home, grab a bite to eat, and run to a meeting and see what's going on. There's no communication of what's going on
Well,
downtown to what's
newspapers
going
haven't
on
been
here.
covering. I agree.
And the issue that like you said, we've got to get involved. We've got to get involved. Hillary Clinton used this term, take back, I don't know if you remember, about 20 years ago, the mayor and I had a little fiasco. And I said it was about time we take back our town, our county, our state, and our federal government. And all of a sudden, this catches on. Hillary's using this term last term. But the idea is that we've got to get involved here. And I'm going to get involved. I'm not going to sit by and watch what happens, because, my time is numbered. I'm on the downslide, so to speak. But I still care about this town. I tell people, the stories about.
Well, I'm a lot older
John,
than
I was just
you,
telling John
so-
when they put the Parkway bridges in. He was asking me about the old, on Ernston Road, when the armory went up in 1917, 1951, when, down in South Amboy, when the barge
Explosion.
exploded, when they built President Park, Laurel Park. I remember all this in town. I tell people, do you remember when they had the trolley tracks in Main Street in Sayreville? And you brought up at a council meeting about, Greenfields and the 4 hardware stores and
Main
Al's and
Street,
Fran's.
what Main
and,
Street was like.
what is it was like, and now look, what is it, Again, priorities in this town have gone from concern for the citizens, as you've mentioned, to the builders, and it's got to stop. And that's why I said last night, we've got to cut we're cutting it. We're going to cut that line, and we're going to fight.
Well, what annoys me when I went off on a tangent with the council, I'm in my twilight years. I turned around and I remember as a child what Main Street was like. You didn't need a car, you had everything. The sad thing is, and I just said, extremely poor planning. And it goes all the way back from maybe the last 3 planning board chairmans and back, and how many master plans I looked at, and I get frustrated. I pay attention to master plans, and then, because nobody listens to me, who am I, even my input, I look back. I get so annoyed that there is no services for 43,000 people. They have a beautiful building on Pulaski Avenue. Well, they don't want it used for medical. I have to go to South Amboy for a blood test. I got to go to East Brunswick for an x-ray. 43,000 people, one grocery store. What services do we provide to the residents of this town? I told the mayor, he can't buy a pair of pants, I can't buy a dress in this town. That's sad. All they want to do is put up little strip malls. A pizza parlor, a nail salon, a hair salon, and maybe a Chinese or whatever. That's in a little convenience store. Strip malls all over the community. They have absolutely no planning. And instead of like making a deal with Mr. Mako, putting in it, make it retail, no. Oh, they were going to make it medical. The last master plan I saw, one section of offices and everything provide. It's just sad. And that's what I brought up Main Street. You didn't need a car. Where Sunnyside is was a theater. We had Greenfield's department store. We had a furniture store. We had a luncheonette. We had a library. We had the drugstore, doctors, dentists, little hotel, a beverage retailer.
All right, I'm going to try to bring this back to education.
An AMP.
But Mrs.
Where
Kilcummins,
is it? What I'm trying to get at is poor planning.
And I think your point is well taken about the board taking a more active role with regard to...
They have to be concerned. You have to be more vocal.
Let me
If
make
you
one
come
point.
as a group,
'Cause
whatever.
Obviously, you're preaching to the choir a little bit here, but I just want to make a point that Dr. Labby's been sounding this alarm for a long time, to the point that at a PTA meeting, I believe he was called a liar by one of our council members, and a lot of people didn't rush to his defense at that time. But this alarm, this isn't new for, and Dr. Labby doesn't live in this town, by the way, he works here, but he's been sounding this alarm for a long time. And again, I agree with, I think everyone here agrees with what you're saying, and we want to see this town grow, but in the right ways for the community here and for our students to invest in our kids, not in huge companies and corporate greed. But at the end of the day, we're still America. We're a representative democracy. Okay, so regardless of what our opinion is on it, and I think everyone here has expressed it, I think we even signed a proclamation last year or something to send to the town council. It's the townspeople that have to share in this. We have to, and I know Dr. Labby tried to, he talked to the PTAs. If anyone's watching this on Channel 15 or whatever we're on, this word has to spread and has to get out there. But at the end of the day, that's who's going to change minds, not the 8 people up here, not you, Ms. Cummins, as persuasive as you are. It's going to be, like you said, the 450 people in Melrose who got up and stuff. If just every parent of a kid in this, school district would go, just one parent for every kid, one representative for every kid, there's no stopping what we could do as far as passing budgets,
It's
as far
also
as getting...
publicity, Mr. Walsh. You have a press conference. A lot of elected officials don't like the publicity. They don't want to bring it to the forefront. You get publicity. Good for you for being on 101.5 or whatever. This is what you need. You need publicity to make the people aware that a crisis is looming, and this is what you have to do. So you need publicity. When they started covering it about COA, and that was just, the people didn't know. In fact, I didn't know. I was called a liar by a councilman, Mr. Grillo. But
Dr. Labby too, so. This guy never
I'm
lied.
in good company. I'm in good company. And it turned around, I said, maybe I don't understand and know about COA, but be damned, like you said, when a judge decides what you should have in your community. I don't see it in Basking Ridge, I don't see it in Far Hills and Rumson, and we're stuck with, we have to have affordable housing. The only thing I don't want to see is Sayreville lose its community feeling. I don't want it to be an Elizabeth, a city, and just even bedroom community, we're good turnaround, who can afford. They need affordable housing because you're not going to be able to afford the taxes. I rest my case. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Kilcummins. Anyone else for public? Hearing none, we'll close public, and I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. By Mrs. DePinto, do I have a second? By Mrs. Bloom. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried.
Mike,